It was a glamorous evening in Hollywood. A VIP charity gala was being held at a luxurious five-star hotel, the kind with crystal chandeliers that sparkled like stars and red carpets that made every guest feel like royalty. Among the many invited was a woman named Angela, who considered herself an influential socialite. Angela loved the spotlight and often attended such events, believing she belonged among the elite. Angela received her golden invitation with a mix of excitement and pride. She was eager to mingle with celebrities, but her intentions weren't entirely pure. She often judged others based on appearances and wealth, making assumptions about their worth. This gala, in her eyes, was another opportunity to flaunt her designer dress and diamond necklace. The night arrived, and Angela walked into the venue like she owned the place. She surveyed the crowd, her eyes scanning for the rich and famous. The room was filled with familiar faces, actors, musicians, and influential business leaders. Among them, a tall, muscular man stood quietly in the corner, dressed in a simple black suit. Angela didn't recognize him and immediately assumed he was unimportant. The man smiled warmly as guests passed him, shaking hands and engaging in light conversation. He had an air of humility that seemed out of place among the extravagance. But Angela, noticing his lack of flashy jewelry or a glamorous entourage, dismissed him as just another nobody. Little did she know, her assumptions were about to lead her down an unforgettable path. As Angela strutted across the room, she couldn't help but mutter to herself, "Why would they let someone like him in here? This is supposed to be an exclusive event." Her words would soon come back to haunt her. Angela made her way to the grand buffet, where tables were adorned with gourmet dishes. She picked up a plate, carefully selecting only the most expensive-looking items. As she turned, she nearly bumped into the tall man she had noticed earlier. He stepped aside politely, flashing a kind smile. "Excuse me," he said in a deep but gentle voice. Angela barely glanced at him and replied curtly, "You should watch where you're going. This isn't some casual diner." Her tone was sharp, and her words were intended to sting. The man didn't react with anger or annoyance. Instead, he chuckled softly and said, "You're right, I'll be more careful." His calm response surprised Angela, but she brushed it off, assuming he lacked the confidence to stand up for himself. Moments later, Angela joined a group of socialites and began chatting loudly about her designer outfit and recent travels. The tall man passed by their table, and Angela couldn't resist making a snide comment. "You'd think they'd have a dress code for these events," she said, loud enough for him to hear. Her friends giggled, feeding her arrogance. The man, however, remained composed. He glanced at Angela briefly, his expression unreadable, before walking away. Something about his demeanor made a few people at the table exchange curious glances. Angela, however, felt triumphant. She believed she had successfully put him in his place. What she didn't realize was that her behavior had not gone unnoticed by others, and that the man she had insulted was someone far more significant than she could imagine. As the evening progressed, Angela continued to bask in the attention of those around her, but she couldn't help noticing that the man she had insulted seemed to be quietly drawing interest from several guests. People approached him, shook his hand, and even took photos with him. Angela's curiosity grew. "Who is he anyway?" she whispered to one of her friends. Her friend shrugged. "I don't know, but he seems important. Did you see how many people are talking to him? Maybe he's some big-shot businessman." Angela scoffed. "Please, if he were important, I'd know who he is. He's probably just tagging along with someone who is important." She dismissed the idea, but a small part of her began to feel uneasy. Meanwhile, the man continued to interact with guests, his warmth and humility leaving a lasting impression on those who spoke with him. Despite his simple attire and lack of pretension, he carried himself with a quiet confidence that intrigued many. Angela, however, was determined to maintain her superiority. She made a point of avoiding him for the rest of the evening, focusing instead on mingling with high-profile guests. Little did she know, the man was aware of her behavior, and he had decided not to let it bother him. As the evening reached its peak, the host of the event took to the stage. The crowd quieted down as the host, a well-dressed woman with a dazzling smile, welcomed everyone to the charity gala. She explained that the highlight of the evening was a special auction, with all proceeds going to a foundation supporting underprivileged children. Angela clapped half-heartedly, her eyes scanning the room for anyone noteworthy. She noticed the tall man again, now seated near the front. He seemed engrossed in the host's speech, nodding occasionally. Angela rolled her eyes, thinking to herself, "What's a guy like him doing in a prime seat? He probably doesn't even have the money to bid on anything." The auction began with smaller items, luxury watches, designer handbags, and rare pieces of art. The bidding was fierce, with wealthy guests raising their paddles and outbidding each other with ease. Angela joined in, bidding on a diamond necklace and eventually winning it. She smirked as applause filled the room, relishing the attention. Then came the final item of the night, an exclusive dinner with a mystery celebrity. The host described the celebrity as one of the most influential figures in Hollywood, someone who had achieved global fame and was admired for their kindness and generosity. The room buzzed with excitement as everyone speculated who it might be. Angela leaned toward her friend and whispered, "It's probably some washed-up actor trying to stay relevant." She laughed, confident that the prize wasn't worth her attention. However, as the bidding started, something unexpected happened. The tall man raised his paddle. The room fell silent for a moment, and all eyes turned to him. Angela was stunned. "What's he doing?" she thought. "He can't possibly afford this." The bidding escalated quickly, with several wealthy guests joining in. But the tall man remained steady, raising his paddle each time without hesitation. Finally, his bid surpassed all others, and the auctioneer declared him the winner. The crowd erupted in applause, but Angela was speechless. Who was this man, and how could he afford such an extravagant prize? After the auction ended, the host invited the tall man to the stage. He rose from his seat, his imposing figure commanding attention as he walked to the front. The audience applauded enthusiastically, but Angela sat frozen, her face a mixture of confusion and disbelief. The host handed him the microphone and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce tonight's special guest and the winner of the final auction item, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson." The room erupted into cheers and applause. Angela's jaw dropped. She couldn't believe her ears. The man she had insulted and dismissed as a nobody was one of the most famous actors in the world. Memories of her rude comments and condescending behavior flooded her mind, and she felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her. Dwayne smiled graciously and began his speech. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he said. "This cause is close to my heart, and I'm grateful for the generosity of everyone in this room. Together, we're making a difference." His words were heartfelt and sincere, and the crowd hung on every word. Angela, however, couldn't focus. She felt small and foolish for judging him based on appearances. She glanced around, noticing the admiration in everyone's eyes. It was clear that Dwayne's presence had elevated the entire event. As he finished his speech and returned to his seat, Angela sank lower in hers, dreading the possibility of him recognizing her. As the evening wound down, Angela tried to avoid crossing paths with Dwayne. She felt a gnawing sense of regret, but didn't know how to approach him. Her confidence, once unshakable, had been replaced by self-doubt. Meanwhile, Dwayne moved through the crowd, graciously taking photos and chatting with guests. His warmth and approachability made him even more admired. Angela watched from a distance, torn between wanting to apologize and fearing his reaction. Eventually, their paths crossed again. Angela froze as Dwayne approached her, his expression calm but unreadable. "Good evening," he said with a smile. "I believe we bumped into each other earlier." Angela's face turned red. She stammered, I didn't realize, I didn't know who you were." Dwayne chuckled softly. "That's okay. You don't have to know who someone is to treat them with kindness." His words were gentle, but they struck a chord in Angela's heart. She swallowed her pride and said, "I'm sorry for the way I spoke to you earlier. It was wrong of me to judge you." Dwayne nodded. "Apology accepted. We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." Angela felt a sense of relief but also a deep sense of shame. His graciousness only made her more aware of her own flaws. Angela left the gala feeling a mix of emotions: embarrassment, regret, and a strange sense of admiration. As her driver navigated the city streets, the sparkling lights of Los Angeles seemed dim compared to the spotlight Dwayne Johnson had shone on her behavior. She replayed the evening in her mind, cringing at her harsh words and judgmental attitude. How could she have been so shallow? She had spent years priding herself on her social skills and sophistication, yet in one night, she had been shown how empty her actions truly were. Her driver glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "You look deep in thought, Mom. Did the gala go well?" Angela hesitated before answering. It was eye-opening. The rest of the drive was silent, giving Angela more time to reflect. She realized that she had been so focused on appearances and status that she had overlooked the qualities that truly mattered: kindness, humility, and generosity. Dwayne Johnson had embodied all of those, even in the face of her rudeness. When Angela arrived home, she placed the diamond necklace she had won in the auction on her vanity. For the first time, it didn't bring her joy. Instead, it felt like a hollow trophy, a reminder of the person she no longer wanted to be. She sat by her window, staring at the city skyline, and made a silent promise to herself. Tomorrow would be different. She would be different. The next morning, Angela woke up determined to take action. She decided to reach out to the event organizers to find out more about the charity Dwayne had supported so passionately. She felt that contributing to the cause might be a small step toward making amends for her behavior. After a few phone calls, Angela learned about the foundation's mission. It provided educational resources and safe housing for underprivileged children, helping them build brighter futures. Touched by the cause, Angela made a generous donation, but she knew that money alone wouldn't ease her guilt. She also asked the organizers for Dwayne's publicist's contact information. She wanted to write him a heartfelt letter, apologizing for her actions and thanking him for the lesson he had unknowingly taught her. In her letter, Angela wrote, "Dear Mr. Johnson, I wanted to sincerely apologize for my behavior at the gala. I judged you unfairly and spoke to you with disrespect, not realizing the kind of person you are. Your graciousness and humility have left a lasting impression on me, and I'm deeply grateful for the lesson you taught me that night. Thank you for reminding me of the importance of kindness and the impact it can have on others. I hope to carry this lesson with me always. With sincere apologies, Angela." She sent the letter, feeling a small weight lift off her shoulders. Now, all she could do was wait. Days passed, and Angela began to move forward, focusing on improving herself and her relationships with others. She volunteered at local shelters and made an effort to treat everyone she met with respect, regardless of their status or appearance. One afternoon, Angela received a package at her doorstep. Confused, she brought it inside and opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note and a small box. The note read, "Dear Angela, thank you for your letter. It takes courage to admit when we're wrong, and I admire your willingness to learn and grow. The world could use more kindness, and I'm glad to see you embracing that. As a reminder of the impact we can all have, I wanted to share this with you. Best wishes, Dwayne Johnson." Angela opened the box to find a small engraved plaque. It read, "Kindness, the greatest strength of all." Tears filled Angela's eyes as she held the plaque. Dwayne's gesture was simple, yet deeply meaningful. It reminded her of the importance of humility and the power of compassion. Angela placed the plaque on her desk, where it served as a daily reminder of her journey. She began attending more charity events, not to show off her wealth, but to genuinely support meaningful causes. At each event, she made an effort to connect with people on a deeper level, listening to their stories and appreciating their unique qualities. She no longer cared about who was wearing the most expensive outfit or who had the highest social status. Word of Angela's transformation began to spread among her social circle. Some were skeptical, but others admired her newfound sincerity. Over time, she found that she was building deeper, more authentic relationships with the people around her. One evening, Angela was invited to speak at a charity gala. Standing before the crowd, she shared her story, including the lesson she had learned from Dwayne Johnson. "Kindness has the power to change lives," she said. "It changed mine, and I hope it can change yours too." The audience applauded warmly, and Angela felt a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. Months passed, and Angela's life continued to evolve in ways she had never anticipated. She found herself invited to events not because of her wealth, but because of her genuine contributions and willingness to help others. She felt a deep sense of purpose that she hadn't known before. Yet, one question lingered in her mind. Would I ever have the chance to meet Dwayne Johnson again? One afternoon, Angela received a message from her assistant. "Dwayne Johnson is hosting a private charity event in support of youth education. He's invited you as a guest of honor." Angela could hardly believe it. She had never imagined the opportunity would come, but here it was, right in front of her. On the day of the event, Angela dressed simply but elegantly, choosing a modest gown that matched her newfound humility. As she arrived at the venue, she noticed Dwayne greeting guests with the same warmth and kindness she had seen that night at the gala. His smile was as genuine as ever, and the energy around him was electric. Angela felt nervous, but she reminded herself that this was her chance to express her gratitude in person. When Dwayne saw her approaching, his face lit up with recognition. "Angela, it's so good to see you again," he said, extending his hand. Angela shook his hand, smiling sheepishly. "Thank you for inviting me. I never expected this, but I'm truly grateful." "You're welcome. I'm glad to see the changes you've made. I knew from your letter that you had a good heart," Dwayne replied. For a moment, the two of them stood there, sharing a quiet, meaningful exchange. The noise of the event faded into the background as Angela realized just how far she had come. The person she was now was someone she could be proud of. The charity event was filled with inspiring speeches, music, and stories of children who had benefited from the foundation's work. Angela watched, captivated by the stories of young people overcoming incredible odds to succeed. She saw firsthand the impact that kindness, generosity, and education could have on a community. As the evening unfolded, Dwayne took to the stage to speak about the importance of supporting the next generation. "Every one of us has the power to shape the future," he said. "By investing in our youth, we're building a brighter tomorrow for everyone." Angela's heart swelled with emotion as she listened. She had become part of something bigger than herself, a cause that would leave a lasting legacy. After Dwayne finished speaking, he invited everyone to take part in a silent auction to raise funds for the charity. Angela, inspired by the children's stories, made her own donation and bid on several items. However, this time, it wasn't about winning, it was about supporting the cause that mattered most. As the night came to a close, Angela reflected on everything she had learned. She no longer viewed life through the lens of superficial success. She realized that true fulfillment came from helping others and living with integrity. Later that evening, Dwayne and Angela found a quiet moment to talk. Dwayne congratulated her on her growth, and Angela couldn't help but thank him for his role in her transformation. "I owe a lot of this to you, Dwayne," Angela admitted. "Your example showed me how much more there is to life than just appearances. It wasn't just the auction or the gala, it was how you carried yourself, how you treated people with respect and kindness." Dwayne smiled, his eyes kind. "It's all about how you treat others, Angela. We all have the ability to change, but it starts with us. I'm proud of you for embracing that change." For the first time in a long while, Angela felt truly at peace with who she was. The lessons Dwayne had unknowingly taught her were still echoing in her heart, and she knew that she would continue to grow, not just as a person, but as someone who could make a difference in the world. They shared a laugh, exchanging stories of their careers and passions, and as the night drew to a close, Angela felt a sense of gratitude like never before. She had learned that it wasn't about fame or status. It was about the lives you touched and the legacy you left behind. Angela's transformation did not go unnoticed. Her friends and colleagues began to recognize the change in her, and many of them sought her advice. She found herself mentoring others who, like her, had once been too focused on superficial success. She became a voice of encouragement, reminding people that kindness was the key to a fulfilling life. Soon, Angela was invited to speak at conferences and charity events, sharing her journey from self-centeredness to humility. She used her platform to advocate for causes that mattered, from children's education to mental health awareness. Her impact spread further than she could have imagined. Angela found herself connecting with people from all walks of life, learning from their experiences and growing even more. The more she gave, the more she received in return, a sense of purpose, peace, and fulfillment that had eluded her for so long. Even Dwayne Johnson, whom she once considered just another celebrity, became a dear friend. They collaborated on several projects, using their influence to inspire others. Together, they championed the importance of kindness, humility, and giving back to the community. Years later, Angela stood before a crowd at a major charity gala, telling her story once more. This time, however, it wasn't about her own transformation. It was about the ripple effect that kindness could create. "When we choose to act with kindness and humility," she said, "we open the door to a life that's filled with purpose and meaning. It's not about what we have, it's about how we use what we have to make the world a better place." She looked out into the audience, spotting familiar faces, people whose lives had been touched by the lessons she had learned from Dwayne Johnson. Angela had finally realized that true strength came not from appearances or status, but from the ability to change, grow, and make a positive impact on others. And she was determined to continue spreading that message, knowing that every act of kindness could create a lasting ripple in the world. The crowd erupted in applause, but Angela didn't need the applause anymore. She had found something far more meaningful, her true purpose. The moral of the story is that true success is measured not by wealth or status, but by the positive impact we have on others. Kindness, humility, and the willingness to grow can lead to a fulfilling life, filled with purpose and meaningful connections.